Welcome to Dear Fans. So the Indiana Fever right now are paying Sydney Colson $60K, and with that $60K it means not $60K, Jesus, $90K. They're paying a $90K, and with that $90K the Indiana Fever literally are going to start next season with 11 players. You see those 2 draft picks, who cares, they can't register them. They cannot register one of those draft picks unless, of course, and by the way, would have how much? They're paying Sydney Colson. I'm not joking when I say this. They can't trade Christy Wallace, they can't trade Lexi Hall unless this team does one of 4 things: trades KDL Sampson, or cuts. They can't trade Tis, won't allow him to field the 12th player. Lexi Hall will not allow him to field the 12th player, neither will Christy Wallace. They have to do one of 4 things to field 12 players this year, as try Case Sampson, or flat out cut Aya Boston, cut Caitlin Clark, or cut Bonner. They have to do one of those 4 things, otherwise they cannot get 12 players. So with those 19 to 20 picks in the draft, just forget about them. They can't use them. So what the smart thing to do is just stash someone. It's the smart thing to do. Draft somebody, leave them in Europe for a year, then maybe in 2026 you take them. And for me, with that 2nd round pick, the best player that you can take right now is Anastasia Kosu from Russia. So she's playing in the top league in Russia, which right now is, look, it's not the greatest standard. It's not the level it was back when all the top WNBA players played in Russia, but it's not a bad level, not a bad level of basketball by any means. Like, it's still a good, really high-level pro league. Like Jaylen Brown's playing over there. There are players that are playing them. There are really good players that are playing over there. But for me, Anastasia Kosu is a risk-free like Rotor, and taking someone is just automatically cutting them. Like, they're over there over the salary cap. Jaylen Brown's not making this team. Like, she's not making this team. And you might as well pretend Jaylen Brown is not on this roster. She is not making this team. There's a reason why Indiana, other than saying we've signed Jaylen Brown, haven't said a word about. He's just not making the team. They're going out with 11 players unless they can trade Ty Lue. They're going out with 11, but what Anastasia Kosu does at least allows you to stash, and she's a really interesting player. So she's playing in the top league in Russia. She's playing for that team. If I'm not mistaken, was this the team? I think was the team that everyone used to play for back in the day. Like, I want to see ex-players right here. Who they have is their ex-players. Yeah, like J.N. Quell Jones is their ex-player. Brittany Griner, obviously. I think, if I'm not mistaken, didn't play for him. I think Trasai play for him. I'm not sure if Stewie played the year for them. But if you're looking at how she's doing, and she is, by the way, a 61 defensive wing, that is her calling like her main thing. She is a 19-year-old 61 defensive wing, and she's been playing obviously in the top league in Russia since 2022 this year. She's putting up 10 points per game. If you look at her last games, 14-12, she had a few bad ones, 13-6, 13-159. So she's doing well. She's a good rebounder as well. Like, she's averaging 5.3 boards a game. She's doing it. She doesn't shoot the 3 ball at all, but from 255% from the field to 80% from the free throw line. So she could become a shooter, but she is a really good defender. She's a kind of wing 4-ish hybrid. Again, a reluctance to shoot the 3 can be a bit of a problem, but still, like, if you're looking at how she's playing, she's been incredibly efficient, and she has been one of the better players. She's been by far the best young player in this league. And if you're looking at how she's been getting on while playing for Russia, like in the Under-19s World Cup, she averaged 15.7 points per game. In the 16th Euros, she had 17 points per game. And obviously in EuroLeague, she played in 2021 and 2020. Like, what age? Like, she's born in 2015. She born April 5th. She's 19. And this was 4 years ago. She played EuroLeague 5 years ago. She played yearly. She was playing 15-14. Like, she was a kid. If you want to look at these stats, she was genuinely like 154, which is crazy, which is absolutely crazy. Like, but yeah, like, she is somebody that has 1st round talent, but it's hard to evaluate her because the Russian league maybe isn't as strong as the French league. It's not as strong as the Euro League anymore. It's not as strong as Euro Cup. So she's hard to evaluate because obviously after the war, the Russian league became much weaker, especially after what happened with Brittany Griner. But if you're the Indiana Fever, you kind of have to take a punt, don't you? Like, what's the point of using those picks? Like, you can't use those picks on anyone. Like, you can't register a player. You don't have enough money to pay a 2nd round pick. You just don't. Like, there's no ifs ands are. But to bed, there's no point making think piece about who the Fever should draft. The Fever should literally, if they are not trading those picks. Like, for me, I think they should just trade both of them to get off KY Lue. I remember be like, oh, why would they trade Both of them because they can't use them anyway. Trade both of them with Katie Lou for a third. Trade both of them with Tai Lu. And next year second for a third, like 3 seconds Katie Lou. To just get offers. Some teams dumb enough. Not dumb enough. Some team will do that. A rebuilding team, the Connectic, if they end up training Marina Ma and they have to trade Tash Cloud, they might go and do that. They might just say, no point, let's just stack up on as many pigs as possible. And maybe, I don't know, they could use something to get those that their own PCK back from Chicago. But, yeah, it's a situation where there's no point. I don't think there's a point really talking about the Fever making this pick, because when they signed Carlson, I thought initially Carlson was going to be on the vet's minimum. I thought she was going to be on the vet minimum, not 90K. So the Fever literally, unless they trade Tai Lu, they're going out with 11 players, and they have 12 players. They have 12 players in their roster. They can't afford their current roster, and every player is on a guaranteed contract except for Clark Aaliyah and D. Boner, and obviously Jaylen Brown. We know Jaylen Brown's getting cut. That's just a guarantee she's getting cut. But Clark, Mitchell, and Bonner are the only players that are not on guaranteed deals, and they're not cutting one of those three. Imagine if they cut the bond before the season starts because they can't field a team. Imagine if they went and did that. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Lads, like Anastasia Kosu there's no point even looking too far into this. She is the best player that you can stash in Europe that's going to be available possibly at 19. It's as simple as that. She might be available at 19, and you can't use the pick anyway. You can't. The pick can't play next year. So with the pick not being able to play next year, I don't see what the point of making all these think pieces looking at what this team needs, looking at players to fish when it doesn't matter. It actually does not matter, because unless they trade Tai Lu, Samson Tiss is not enough to get under the cap. Lexi Hull is not enough to get under the cap. Now, they need someone who has a contract of a minimum of 102K, and the only players that have contracts that they're able to trade are Kiel Samuels, Natasha Harry, Danana Bonner, and Kelsey Mitchell. That's it. As much as I hope this team has an idea of what they're doing, but it's looking more and more likely they're just going to go up with 11. It's going to take a major masterstroke from the front office to not have 11 players next year. So if you're going to go out with 11 anyway, why not just use one of your draft picks on a stash player? And I don't know, maybe just trade the other pick for a second rounder next year. I don't know. I don't think next year's draft's as deep or anything, but just trade it for a second round or next year. And give someone else the chance of taking a Vaneth and Olsenum, ARA Marshall or something, because none of those can literally play. If the Fever, if you are an American player and you get drafted by the Fever this year, it's the worst thing ever, because it's a guarantee you get cush. So anyway, I'll see you guys. Like this video and subscribe this channel. Thank you.